For further analysis, joining us from Cairo is International Relations Specialist Dr. Mohamed Osman to discuss the latest developments. Dr. Osman, thank you so much for joining us on this special coverage. And before discussing the release of today's detainees, how do you see the timing of the announcement made by Hamas mourning its military chief Mohamed Deif and the number of its commanders?
Thank you for having me, Salma. Well, indeed, Hamas has declared its the decease of long-awaited, of course, announcement since Mr. Deif was assassinated about a few months ago by Israeli occupation forces in Gaza at the height of the hostilities in the war. And now they are declaring this, making this announcement because they feel that it is the right time, because they believe that there is a chance that this will be a conclusive end to the war that Gaza has had to endure for the past 15 months, and also it comes within the jubilant atmosphere surrounding the release of over 110 prisoners from Israeli prisons, including 32 serving life sentences, which means that they were high-ranking members of the resistance groups, including Hamas. So announcing the death of Mohamed Deif in such circumstances lessens or dilutes the impact of such an announcement, as Deif was one of the integral historical leaders of the military wing of Hamas, the Al-Qassam brigades.
Now, Doctor, looking ahead, what does the third round of detainee exchanges signify for the future of the ceasefire agreement, and how can both sides build trust moving forward?
It is a positive sign. It means that so far the agreement is enduring, that the agreement is surviving all of the hurdles that have been put in place by the Israeli occupation forces, the Israeli occupation government as well, including Netanyahu, was so eager to obstruct this agreement as much as he could, and he also was eager to find ways in order to resume hostilities, in order to preserve his ruling coalition. However, now it seems that there is substantial pressure by the mediators, including the United States, for the Israelis to abide by the agreement. And I think that the presence of Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy today in Israel, and he witnessed part of the exchange deal and the arrival of some of the Israeli detainees who were released in exchange for the 110 Palestinian detainees today. That was an encouraging sign, it seems, for the durability and the prolonging of the ceasefire. However, it's way too early to judge or to assume that this ceasefire will be permanent, that this agreement will survive all three phases. A lot of challenges lay ahead. Today, the agreement nearly collapsed when Netanyahu intentionally delayed the release of tens of thousands, of the 110 Palestinian prisoners of war, in response to the what he saw as the provocative celebrations displayed by Hamas and ordinary Palestinians during the transfer of the prisoners, the Israeli detainees, to the International Committee of the Red Cross. However, it seems
sorry for cutting in, Doctor,
yes,
but this
ahead.
is the third round of the exchange process. From here, I would like to ask you, what are the next steps in the peace process after this specific release? And you mentioned the challenges. What challenges remain for achieving a long-term resolution from your point of view?
The problem is that the first phase, which ends in 42 days, 33 Israeli detainees will be released in exchange for about over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners of war. However, it's not guaranteed that the second phase will go into effect, because the details of the second phase were not agreed upon yet. They are still being negotiated, and the problem is that the Israelis are still being very stringent and uncooperative in the negotiating process, which means that we do not have a conclusive blueprint for the plans ahead in order to enforce the second phase, which should witness further Israeli withdrawal and more detainee exchanges. And one of the most concerning parts of the entire ceasefire agreement with its 3 phases is the absence of any clause that stipulates that this ceasefire is permanent, that this ceasefire is unrevocable. Unfortunately, we do not have that. We do not have that yet, at least. However, there is hope that by prolonging the ceasefire and building upon the progress and building enough confidence and trust between the mediators and both parties, maybe then a sustainable ceasefire can be, a permanent ceasefire can be reached. And all will depend on the willingness of the Trump administration to exert a substantial amount of pressure on Netanyahu's government.
Now, sir, can you provide more insights into the challenges faced during the release process?
One of the main challenges, of course, was what the Israelis did today, for example, was a pristine example of how Israel takes advantage of certain situations in order to obstruct the enforcement of an agreement. What happened today was very similar to what happened in the 2 previous releases of Israeli detainees. People were celebrating. Hamas was turning over the detainees to the Red Cross in a celebratory atmosphere with a quasi-ceremony that was attended by thousands of ordinary Palestinians who are actually happy that this agreement is taking place because it gives them hope. The jubilant crowds are celebrating a glimmer, a very slight glimmer of hope. However, the Israelis could not stomach that, so they took advantage of that, saying that you are endangering the lives of the detainees, and therefore we are holding back our end of the deal, and we will delay indefinitely the release of the Palestinian prisoners. However, after the intervention of the mediators, the American mediators, the Egyptian mediators, the Qatari mediators, the Israelis backed down and sufficed with delaying it until the evening, and now the releasing of the Palestinian prisoners.
Sir, sorry for cutting in, but speaking of this point exactly, like earlier today, Netanyahu delayed the arrival of the Palestinian detainees to 3 p.m. GMT timing. If you can expand more on the key concerns raised by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu regarding the future releases and the safety of the detainees.
As I told you, he was making allegations about the safety of the detainees. However, he is lying. There are no actual concerns. These are people in Palestinian captivity for the past 15 months, and most of the detainees who died in Palestinian captivity died with Israeli fire. So if there is anything that endangers the lives of the Israeli detainees, it is the acts of aggression carried out by the Israeli Army of Occupation. Bombs. Some of the detainees who were returned, who were released, spoke that they were always horrified by the sound of the Israeli bombardment, that the bombs landed meters away from them, that some of their colleagues died due to Israeli bombardment, and this was admitted by the Israeli government. Some bodies were retrieved during Israeli military operations inside Gaza of detainees who were killed due to Israeli artillery strikes and airstrikes as well. So it seems that the only danger to the detainees is the Israelis. During the war they were a danger because they were killing their own people basically, and now if they are a danger to them by threatening to throw Gaza back into war, because this will put the lives of the remaining 82 detainees in jeopardy, and it also will place the lives of the entire population of the Gaza Strip in jeopardy as well. And let's not forget that this war has left over 50,000 people dead, mostly civilians. Most of them were women and children. So I do not think we should never forget about this while discussing anything, and while discussing any of the developments and the different phases of this conflict and its post-conflict period. So going back to your question,
sorry for cutting in, but this third round witnessed the release of a significant number, 110 Palestinian detainees. What does their exchange for 3 Israeli detainees mean for the broader peace process in the region?
It doesn't mean much for the broader peace process. There is no peace process in the region. Now what we are speaking of is trying to enforce a permanent ceasefire. No one should have any illusions about a peace process under the Trump administration or under a Netanyahu administration in Israel. These people do not even believe or abide by the two-state solution. They do not believe in the two-state solutions. They do not believe in the provisions of the Oslo Accords and the huge accumulation of treaties and UN resolutions and accords that have cemented the two-state solution as the sole exit and the sole solution for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So as long as those people are in power and as long as they do not change their policies and how they view the dynamics of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, I do not think we will see any substantial change in the peace process. The peace process is frozen and it's being diminished. It's becoming something of the past. Maybe in the future something different would happen, or maybe Trump would surprise us as usual, even though I highly doubt, given his latest statements and his very provocative statements regarding, for example, Egypt and Jordan, key U.S. partners in the region who outright rejected his proposals to displace the Palestinians and announced very clearly that they will never allow this to happen. So it doesn't seem that that the current state of affairs will be conducive to a sustainable peace process, Salma.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohamed Osman, for your insights and for all the information you provided us with. Thank you so much.